It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, July 8th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's talking Egor Zamula's contract.
It's a big deal.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. You can find us over on YouTube, on the SiriusXM app, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, we did a whole development camp wrap-up episode and put that out on Sunday. So make sure to go back and listen to that if you haven't already. We're going to dig more into Heikki Ruohonen on today's show as well. But obviously, the first order of business is the new contract for defenseman Egor Zamula. We talked about this last week as sort of part of the remaining to-dos for Danny Briere and management. And in that conversation, we're talking about the term, we're talking about the cap hit on it. And I did the math, looked at a spreadsheet and said, it's going to be 1.7 because that's what money is left, right? And sure enough, that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, you called it. I said he deserved a little more, and I don't know if they have any other places they could pull from. So if not, I agreed with you. I'm happy he took it. I mean, I don't know if everybody understands how important he really was last year, because if he had been a bust, let's say, and they were holding on to him because they didn't want to lose the asset, that defense would have been in more trouble than it was later in the season, because he was kind of like the glue, because he could really play in any spot, give him minutes and you know, in a lot of different places. And so he was really important for that. And he's going to be the same thing this year, because like he doesn't really have a fixed role unless they go 11-7. So he's that guy that you end up piecing in there, and he does a great job.
Yeah, and I think, the other main thing we talked about with Zamula this season is that he was the like exhibit A of, if you give somebody a chance in the
Yes.
Tortorella system and you don't bench him all the time and you just let him learn and grow and develop as you should at the NHL level, good things can happen, right? And he was able to get better and better as the season went on. And like you said, they gave him a little bit more responsibility. He was in and out of the lineup, and I'm sure that
Hmm.
was difficult for him in terms of consistency and the varying roles, but he just went with it and did a really good job. He scored some key goals at times, which isn't his forte necessarily, but he did anyway. And so, yeah, I agree with you that he probably deserved a little more than 1.7. I was thinking like 2.2,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
I think that there just wasn't money for it. And so that's why I think the term was 2 years, because I feel like the team was like, look, like in the
This is
back of
all
their
we
head,
got.
this is all we got. So we'll give you a 2-year deal so you can re up for more sooner.
Right. Right. And that's what'll happen. And that's good. Yeah, even Ronnie Attard would have loved to have the roles Zamula did, just because he got such little playing time at the NHL level. So, uh, but now nobody's going to have that role this year because Eric Johnson's back. So it's like the only way Attard's getting up there is with injury. So I just hope he can keep it together. I'm sure there's going to be a little demotivating thing there because he is 25. He probably figured he would have his shot by now, and he hasn't. So, but we'll see. Hockey's weird. You never know what might happen.
Yeah, just with Zamula in particular, I think
Yeah.
we don't talk about this enough, but he was undrafted.
Hmm.
And the fact that he was able to prove himself, sign an ELC after he had a really, really good year with the Calgary Hitmen, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's just been a really exciting progression for him to go from being undrafted to getting a solid NHL contract. And we did a whole season in review episode on him recently. There'll be a link to that in the show notes if you haven't seen it. So I think he is a really important part of this blue line, even though it may not seem like it based on the ice time that he had this past season, but we're looking to more of that. What's interesting also is because they gave him a 2-year deal, we're looking at with the Flyers blue line, his contract expiring at the same time as Jamie Drysdale, who the Flyers also have a lot invested in
Right.
terms of role, right? So now Drysdale's a little injury prone. And so
Yeah.
we don't know what's going to happen there with that aspect of it. But, assuming everything works out in terms of, him staying healthy, Zamula's healthy, they have both of their contracts expiring in 2 years, right about the time that Oliver Bonk is entering the conversation. And, there could be some other defensemen entering the conversation, and maybe that's when they want to sign a big free agent defenseman at that.
Hmm.
So I think at the end of the 26 season is going to be a very pivotal point for this Flyers blue line.
I mean, will the power play be fixed by then? Never mind. That's existential.
Talking
Uh,
blue line here.
yeah. No, I mean, as far as the rotating contracts, the way it's going, that's good. Uh, if Drysdale works out, you won't need to sign a big mega defenseman. You could just sign like a mid guy that is a good veteran for 2-3 years, and that's probably all you'll need. But again, we have to see what kind of path everybody takes and who they hold on to, and if Drysdale could stay healthy. So, a few ifs, but the plan, the framework for the plan is not bad, not bad at all.
Yeah, and I think the um, interesting part of it will be the number of guys that they're going to have to deal with the qualifying offers and how do they balance it out and roles on the blue line. Because if you look at, the prospect defenseman, that is when Emile Andre should be getting his first RFA contract in theory. Um, who knows what's happening with Adam Ginning, Ethan Sampson is coming up at that time, as is Hunter McDonald. So the entire face of the Flyers blue line could be changing by then.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the way hockey goes. I mean, that's kind of like a normal thing. If you've stocked your farm system, that's what you're hoping for, honestly. So yeah, I have no problem with it.
Yeah. And, of course, Travis Sanheim's contract goes a ways into the future. Nick Seeler at that point will have 2 more years left on his deal. So unless he gets traded, he has a no trade clause though. So,
Yeah,
you know, who knows what'll happen with that.
sure.
But I do think like the next couple of years in terms of these prospect defensemen, it's going to be a really important time in terms of juggling, who's really making progress, who isn't, and making some clear decisions. And that should be when the blue line is pretty dialed.
Yeah, I would think it could be pretty dialed at that point. A good mix, and yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell you it's a championship blue line at that point because it's still going to be developing. But it's you might start to see this, how it could turn into something really good in another 2 years after that.
Yeah, and this is where like my spidey senses say they're gonna try and sign a big free agent defenseman to plop in there. But we'll see. That's 2
I mean,
years
that's been their
down the road.
history. That's
Right,
always been their history, but it doesn't mean they
right,
should now.
right. I know.
Or
I
ne or
know.
then I should say.
Yeah, I know. That's just me projecting into the future based on the
Right,
past. But
right.
yeah, we will see what happens with that. Excited to have Zamula back on the Flyers blue line and give him a real solid full season without, being benched half the time, or not really half the time, but
You know who that guy will be? It'll be Shane Gostisbehere. His contract will be up, and then he'll be coming back to the Flyers.
No, I do not think that is. He would not do that. He would not do that. Oof. Anyway, we are going to look toward the future of the Flyers with one of the new draftees that we just saw at development camp in Heikki Ruohonen, and we are going to do that coming up next.
I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as we're in full swing for summer sports, we absolutely miss hockey. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. FanDuel has odds for Wimbledon tennis, the Paris Olympics, with over-unders on medal counts by country, soccer, and so much more. And I'd still take the Mets over the Pirates today, by the way. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockdown and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
On tomorrow's show, we are going to look at the Flyers depth charts now that the dust has settled from the draft and development camp. We have a little bit more of a sense of a lot of these guys. So, what does the depth chart look like at this point? And, adding Michkov in as well. So we're going to dig into that tomorrow. Plus, we're going to answer your mailbag questions on Wednesday. So get those in. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com, send us a message on Twitter, or comment on our YouTube channel. So Heikki Ruohonen, to me, was one of the more fun aspects of development camp. He's just such a great personality. And I think that he, first off, speaks English completely fluently, like absolutely no issues there, which is really good to see. And I think part of it is because he's so smart, right? And
Yeah,
he is going to Harvard, and that says a lot. And he said a lot, in his interview at development camp, that he was always good in school and he wanted to pursue academics at the same time as he was pursuing hockey. And I just think that's so cool that he just really has a true sense of himself, right, relative to hockey and his place in the world.
no, it's good to have a backup plan in life, and I feel like he's well grounded, and that's a big thing. He, like you said, he does come off as intelligent. He's calm. He doesn't get too excited about anything. Like, he scored a goal in the game, and he was just like, yeah, scored a goal, so big deal. He's very, and I like the fact that he's very understated like that, because guys who are understated like that don't get too excited. They don't get too upset. So yeah, the only thing that worries me is that I'd like to see him play higher than the J20 this year. And right now, there's no path that says he's gonna.
No, he is. I mean, he's playing in Dubuque in the USHL.
Oh, that's right. He said he was going to Dubuque. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so he's doing 1 year in the USHL in
Right,
Dubuque,
right.
and then going to Harvard for D1 hockey. And so, like, given his smarts and, obviously he is prepared for coming to North America by learning
Yeah.
English so well. He talked a lot about the decision-making process for that path, right? That what would make the most sense. And he, like a lot of us, have noticed the pattern of a lot of college hockey players making the jump to the
Right.
NHL, even like after 2 years in college or so. And that it's a really good training ground, and you're playing against bigger guys and all of that. He recognizes that was a better path for him than junior hockey, but he was going to come over to North America no matter what.
Well, I think also, so the academics are good. Ted Donato's really good at his job. Whether Harvard's like a powerhouse or not, they've been failing a little lately, but the players haven't. You being a Euro, once you decide you're done with college, you can go right to the AHL. There's no waiting, like if you were in the Canadian Hockey League, be a little different. There's all different facets of that. And so I feel like he's getting the best of both worlds. I look at his frame and I know he can put on some muscle. So he's going to probably be one of those guys that works out 2, 3 days a week besides, going to school. In that scrimmage, I did like his puck management, which shows that he's
Yep.
a good two-way center. Just like I said, he got swarmed at times because he just didn't have anybody to pass it to. But he showed well, and yeah, I think we're talking about a future like third line center if it all hits right. And so no reason not to think it wouldn't at this point.
Yeah, and he's 6'2",
Mhm.
so he does have room to grow from a frame perspective, like you said,
Yes.
but I think he's got a decent amount of size to him, but he's not a giant, which
No, he's
I think
lanky right now, and you could see
yeah.
it.
Yeah, and I think, he is a good two-way center, I think, which is really good to have in the system, and, he models his game after Barkov, which who wouldn't if you're Finnish,
Right. I
right?
mean.
So but he also is, I think, really interested in the success of the Flyers as an organization. I think he kind of gets that and gets where he can fit in there again because he's really smart. So he knew the Flyers had some interest in him, and I was just really impressed by yeah, like you said, the way he carries himself, and the way he goes to work. And, I was watching some of the drills that they were doing, and one of them, which was really interesting to me, was they were doing like a doing a circular skating drill just around the 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 circles there with 2 pucks. So you have to skate around the circle and puck handle 2 pucks. And I think it took him a sec, but once he got it, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine with this." And some other guys weren't. Like Denver
Right,
Murphy, not so much, right?
right.
And like
Yeah,
he struggled.
there's a problem-solving aspect to that.
Yeah. Yeah, like he was just really methodical about how he went about like getting a particular drill and getting better at it as the drill progressed and as his reps progressed, and that is something that stood out to me as well.
Yeah, like, if I had a teammate to choose, like, on that show, The Challenge, I'd choose him because he probably would get every puzzle. I feel like he could solve every puzzle, and so that would be a
Yeah,
big
and
deal. So,
yeah, and he like understands his body relative to what
he
he
does.
needs to do out there, and what he can do and what the best approach is. And he's not like super physical at all with his game, but I think he can grow to get a little bit more physical. It'll just take that confidence in his frame, and bulking up a little bit before he can get there. I think that he was like a really good 4th round pick. I think his 4th round is exactly where he should have gone. Um,
Yeah.
and that this is like a really good, you know, option for the Flyers in that round.
Yeah, this is one where I'll give a nod to Sammy Kapanen because clearly Sammy, like, had
Yes.
tipped him off that the Flyers were interested. Uh, this is a guy that I knew nothing about. He wasn't on any national team. Well, I shouldn't say that. He did play um, in the U18. Was it U18 or World Juniors? No, World Juniors. And for whatever reason, I didn't notice him enough, but I have it on my DVR, so I missed him on that. But beyond that, yeah, regular season, I wouldn't have noticed him. I guess I was noticing Hemming and Hellenius too much, but he was 4th in scoring on that. So good for them. They stayed with him, and that was one that I missed. And yeah, I really like him, and I think there's something here. He does have playmaking abilities too. So
Yeah, he
all he has
drives
to
to the
do is
net
develop.
really well.
Yeah, all he has to do is develop.
Yeah, so I think that again, with this entire draft class, there's a lot of potential there, and we'll see what happens. And he's just part of that. But what I saw so far at development camp, I really liked it. With in terms of his work ethic and his smarts and his game. So
You know
excited
what?
to see what he does.
There is one thing. I think I do remember him having a game where he lost his temper because he did have 27 PIMs in the World Juniors, and so I do kinda I'm gonna look at that, and we'll talk about that in the future 'cause, um, he may have a little bit of a temper there.
Well, we'll see if that comes to fruition over the next couple of years in the USCHL and the college game. I'm sure, especially the college game, that'll go away because it's a little bit
Yeah,
more
they kind of take it
disciplined
out of you.
there. They do. But aside from that, it is Monday. So we have a new weekly poll for you that is Flyers draft related. And we'll have our new Nemesis of the week coming up next. All right. So last week in our listener poll, we just asked you to say how you thought the Flyers did overall in terms of the new draft class. Now that we've seen them at development camp and we know a little bit more about them, want to ask, based on what we know now and the development camp performance of the new draft picks, which non-Jett Luchanko prospect, so not the first round, but everybody else, are you most excited about moving forward? And so we've got Jack Berglund, Spencer Gill, Noah Powell, Heikki Ruohonen, and Austin Moline. And we did leave out the Russian pick for the Flyers because he wasn't at development camp. So that was kind of the criteria for that. Excited to see what y'all think in terms of who excited you the most. I have my suspicion on who is going to come out on top, but I will keep that to myself until we discuss it later in the week. Moving to our nemesis of the week. Last week, we talked about the whiplash of, the draft and all of that, which is very exciting and grandiose, and then move into dev camp, and then all of a sudden everything just comes to a screeching halt, right? And the
Right.
real off season begins here. And even talking about, training camp and all of that is the next thing that we're going to do in September, especially now that we have the Zamula contract done. That was pretty much it as far as the main
Yeah.
to-do list for the Flyers roster. So I think now for me, the nemesis has to be waiting until September and October for things to get going again. I think, we talked about this last summer about, the beauty league, and there is some summer stuff that happens. We've got the World Junior Camp,
Yeah, the
coming
summer
up,
showcase.
the summer showcase. There's that. But it's a little bit thin when it comes to hockey activity coming on over the summer. So that's kind of my nemesis this week, is like thinking about the weeks ahead.
Yeah, I think mine is going to be the over amplification of Matvei Michkov before he ever gets here. Like, I'm already seeing, well, he's a rival of Bedard. Well, we don't know that yet. We know what Connor Bedard did already in the NHL, and Michkov is yet to play in the NHL. So we can't say that yet. We can't say any of it yet. We have to see how it all kind of goes. Yeah, he was really good in the KHL, and that's a good sign, but I'm not going to just anoint the guy. What if he has trouble at the beginning? I'm not putting the extra pressure on him, but I just feel like uh, there are going to be forces from the outside and the media and such. Hopefully he doesn't read it, and hopefully he doesn't care about it, because I do feel like he's going to have a little bit of pressure on him to make this team, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think we've talked about the word patience when it comes to him, and that he's very young, and he's had, sure, experience in the KHL, but he's coming over. It's a new league with like a new set of ground rules, and he's gonna need some time. And I think that's okay. I'm still excited. I'm still looking forward to seeing what he can do, but I'm also going to give him a little bit of time and a
Me
little bit
too.
of leeway. And I just want to make sure that the expectations are reasonable for him. I think that it's just important to do that, and give him that space to make those adjustments
Yeah.
before you say, oh, he's amazing, or oh, he's a bust. Like, say he comes out gangbusters, great, excited for that. But is that going to be sustainable? I think we just have to give a longer period of time and more than 1 year, frankly.
Right.
I think, this is a long-term investment in a guy like him, and I want him to be the star on this team and score a lot of points.
Yeah.
But I gotta give him a little bit of time and leeway to make that adjustment.
Yeah. So hopefully he can get here at a time where he gets used to Philly first. I think that would be great.
Yeah, it'll depend on all of the, visa and all of
Yep.
that they've been talking about, but, I'm kinda hoping they have a really strong, like, welcome Matvei Michkov kinda fan day or something like
Right.
that,
Right.
um, after him being here for a little bit.
Right.
Which they're apparently very good at keeping secret, right?
Yeah. 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 He'll just show up in Voorhees one day. That's fine.
Yeah, I think that would be hilarious to just kinda have it be out of nowhere, but, I love that kind of stuff when the Flyers can do that and have
It'd be
something
fun.
come out of nowhere. But yeah, in the meantime, it's the summer and we've got a lot to get into over the next several weeks as we kind of dig into this team a little bit more, dig into these draft picks a little bit more, and we're excited to bring that to you coming up. That will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. We will be back tomorrow with a deep dive into the Flyers depth charts. And as a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got questions you want us to answer, you can let us know on Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube that's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Have a great day, everyone.